Ready? Okay. Okay.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm here today to give a public update on the shooting that we had over the past weekend. With me, we have our district attorney, DA Colom. We have our vice mayor, board member, Councilman Mickens. We have our mayor, the Honorable Keith Gaskin, and also Assistant Chief Garland Ward. We will be taking brief questions after the end of this conference, but we just wanted to touch bases. I'm gonna touch bases real quick and give you a brief synopsis of what we have, and then I'm gonna turn it over to our DA, and he's going to give his part, and then from there we'll go back and forth, okay? On Friday, we received a call by 11:55 in reference to shots being fired at Club Inferno at 2118 Highway 45 North. Officers arrived shortly after midnight and found a subject who was deceased on the floor. Devin Thompson was pronounced dead on the scene. At the time, we had several people. It was a very chaotic scene. We had people that were concerned about their loved ones. We had other individuals that were also struck. We had 4 people that were injured as well as the deceased. Those 4 were transported by personal vehicles to BMH for treatment, and they were treated and they were released. At this time, we had individuals who gave us a street name of Potts, who was our alleged shooter. Officers who are familiar with the street name and also our violent crime task force, our Viper unit, went into service with our CID, and we started pretty much working the crowd, working the people that were there, talking to witnesses, trying to calm people down, reuniting loved ones with their family members. Because like I said, we had family members pulling up on scene, and it was very, very chaotic. So we were able to get some information, and that led us to the name of our suspect, Andre Williams. He was arrested on Saturday at 6:53 p.m. After a public outcry. We've asked the public for their help in arresting him. He was identified as our shooter. We do know that he is the only shooter that was at the club that day. We had no other shots fired but by him. He was seen before our city judge, Judge Ellis, on yesterday, and he was given no bond. Okay? All right, now I'll come back and answer, unless you want to ask me a question now, I'm gonna let DA call. Come on up. All right, DA.
Thank you, Chief. I know I speak for the police chief and the city of Columbus and the mayor when I say that our heart goes out to Devin's family. It's a tragedy anytime a young person is lost, but to be lost in such a tragic way from gun violence is something that really we feel for the family, we feel for the community, we feel for the people that loved him. The one thing that I can tell the family and the city of Columbus is they should be very proud of their police department. My office has been in communication with the Columbus Police Department since Friday morning. We got briefed on the investigation, as we do with all homicides, and we are very confident in the work that the chief and his team have done. They've gone out of their way to make sure they identify witnesses, they secure evidence from the nightclub, try to get witnesses cooperation, and that hard work led to the arrest of Mr. Williams, and I think rightfully so. He was denied bond considering the public safety threat that he is to our city and to our community. What I do want to say is that as a district attorney, I can tell you, you can never have too much evidence. And we know that there were witnesses at that nightclub. It was crowded. If you have information, if you were there, cooperate with us. We can protect you. Our office is going to do everything in our power to make sure Mr. Williams, with the help of the Columbus Police Department, is prosecuted in a way where he can never do anything like this to anyone ever again. So if you cooperate with us, we can protect you. We've had people come forward, join, the justice team, help us get justice for this horrific act. And so that's very important. I want to reiterate that. If you've got any information about what occurred here, we can protect you. Join the justice team. Help us deter this type of crime. The other thing I want to say, thankfully, anytime you have a loss of a loved one, it's a terrible tragedy for a community. But thankfully, this is the first homicide we've had in the city of Columbus this year. And I think the chief was telling me last year we had 3. So that's a good thing. But we know that the summer months can be times where young people are out, times where people want to have a good time, and it's okay to have a good time. But our nightclubs, they've got to work with us. We can't have nightclubs that do not have proper security with the proper protocols to secure their nightclub.
Yes.
That means security that checks everybody upon entry, exit, and re-entry. You've got to have, there's wands you can use to make sure people don't have guns on them. We don't want people not to have anything to do this summer. But our business owners, our nightclub owners, they got to take the steps to protect our citizens. I know that the city is going to have activities for young people this summer. If you're a parent, encourage your children to participate in those activities. If you don't know what your children are doing, if you know that your child has guns and access to guns, bad things are going to happen. Bad things are going to happen. So the summer months, we know people are going to be out of school. We know there's going to be opportunities for bad actions. You can't expect the Columbus Police Department, the city of Columbus, to be responsible for your kids at all times. You need to do your part too. So let's make this the only murder for the summer in the city of Columbus. Wouldn't that be a great thing? That would be an awesome thing. We can do it. We can do it. But I can tell you, from what I saw this weekend, with the investigation that was done, led by the chief, if you do something dangerous, you do something stupid, you're going to have people coming after you, and they're going to get the evidence. And I can tell you, my office position is going to be on Mr. Williams is, we don't expect him to get an offer that is going to give him the opportunity to get out of prison anytime soon. I don't want to speak ahead of myself. We got a long process to go, but Mr. Williams is going to face a long time, if there's anything I can do, a long time for what he did here, because this was a terrible, terrible thing. With that, I'll defer back to the chief.
One more thing I want to put emphasis on. I know a lot of times I make statements and then later on people look at me and they say, well, you should have said that. But I mean this, okay? We got individuals, just like the DA said, who saw what took place. I can't speak for what happened prior to, but we also have individuals that are trying to hinder this investigation. If you are caught trying to hinder this investigation, if you are caught trying to intimidate a witness, if you are caught interfering with this investigation in any way, we will put you in jail and we will charge you with intimidating a witness, which is a felony, and we will prosecute you to the fullest. This is the friendly city, okay? I'm not gonna make you think that this is Mayberry because it's not, okay? But we have a conflict resolution problem. We have people, and people get on social media and they want to attack the city and saying how violent, how dangerous the city is. We have our share, like every other city. But what happens is people need to understand a lot of these shootings that we're having are individuals who have a personal beef with someone else. And then when the police department gets there, when we get there, you can have 20 people out there, nobody saw nothing. How can we can't do it by ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. The men and women of this department, they can't do it by themselves. I think the mayor and the board, ever since these shootings across the weekend have taken place, they have been in constant contact. They're frustrated, okay? Because this is not the type of city that we want. And we are gonna put every resource that we have forward to curb some of this, but we need help from the community. I'm tired of going on scenes when we get there, nobody knows nothing. If you don't want to tell us, use Crime Stoppers, use the P3 app, come by the PD or call and we'll come meet you if we have to. because we have to put a stop to this. I'm tired of senior citizens calling because they're scared at night because of the bullets and firing that they hear. What people don't understand is the people that are gray are the ones that paved the way for me to be here, for him to be here, for everyone behind me to be where we are. Those folks don't want to move, nor should they be forced to move. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that we have a good summer. Now, we are going to get out this summer and get out with our kids and try to do some things to have some proactive events with the children. And we're going to be calling on some of our businesses to help us with these events. We're going to do our part, but we need the parental help, and we also need our churches and our other civic organizations to step up and let's give our kids something to do. I see our president of the NAACP is here. All right. I know that if we lean on her for something, she's going to help us as well from the NAACP's perspective. So I'm going to call on the media, because a lot of times you guys want to portray the negative, but I need you to portray the positive too. When we do these stories with these kids and we're doing positive stuff with them, we need y'all to be there as well to show the other kids that they can have fun hanging out with the cops. They can have fun hanging out in the community doing things. We need your help as well. Now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and open up for questions.
How did the gun get in the bar?
He brought it in.
What about security? How did he get it past security?
That's still under investigation, but we do know he walked in the door with it.
Do we know the health conditions of the victims?
The other four, as far as I know, have been treated and released.
Can you
give a charge with those?
Additional charges are pending, and it looks like we will be coming forward with 4 more additional counts of aggravated assault.
Does Williams have a history of crime here in the city?
He does. Do you want to speak on that?
Yeah. I was going to say that he's previously been charged with several crimes. I do think it's important to point out that him and Mr. Thompson have had previous encounters with each other. I think Mr. Thompson back in 2007 was arrested for a shooting charge related to Mr. Williams. So they've had conflict for a long time, and it just escalated to a point where it really got terrible and violent.
And Scott too, Mr. Williams was also involved in the shooting that happened at the College Convention Center back in Thanksgiving night a couple of years ago.
Right. Yeah. I think he was involved in that. Again, going back to what the chief said, that's why witness cooperation is so important. When you don't have witness cooperation, when you don't have people willing to give statements, to testify in front of a grand jury or testify in trial, you can't prosecute people. And that's what happened with that shooting. Is that it was a crowded area, but nobody would come forward, and certain people that we knew what happened were unwilling to come forward, and it resulted in the charge not going forward because of that. So, this situation, thankfully, we've got witnesses cooperating, and I can't say what they're saying, but we also have other evidence, physical evidence, that corroborates those statements. So I don't want the public to think there's a chance that this situation is not going to be handled appropriately. It's going to be prosecuted. The evidence is there. We're going to prosecute them. So I feel very confident about the case from where we are right now. But again, you can never have too much evidence. You've got to cooperate. If you know, because sometimes I hear people say, so a strange thing, well, that's the police job. Well, I'm not. That's their job. They got to get the evidence. Well, the evidence is people. So we're not magicians. If there's no video, you got to be willing to give a statement. You are the evidence. So if you don't care enough about your community to stop this type of violence, then you're going to make it difficult for us to prosecute. But like I said, in this situation, very confident about where we are. I view this similar to some of the other prosecutions we had recently. Kenny Armstead was one that had gotten into a lot of trouble over a long period of time, and we finally got a good case on him, and we were able to prosecute him. He got life plus 40 years. That's the type of situation this is going to be. So it's going to get all the attention from the police department necessary, and it's going to get all the attention from my office necessary to make sure people know they can have they can be at nightclubs and feel safe. And if people make them not feel safe, there's going to be a serious, serious consequence to that.
Was the security at the nightclub adequate, in your opinion?
Well, in my professional opinion, I would say no. But what we are going to do, I've already got permission from our mayor. We're going to host a meeting with our club owners, because here's the thing. We had a huge number of individuals that were there having a good time.
Right.
They were with their friends, they were with their families, they were having a good time. You know, it shouldn't take one bad apple to spoil it for everybody. But we are going to meet with the big club owners and talk to them about some concerns that we're hearing from neighbors in the community, as well as patrons in these different clubs, to try to enhance their security, but also to educate them on the liability that they have when you open a club and what happens in these places. You know, everybody said there's nothing to do in Columbus. There's a lot to do, but we got to make sure that the people out here with ill intentions are not ruining it for everybody.
In your personal opinion, if security was adequate, do you think that this could have been prevented?
It's hard to say. It really is. I mean, I think some steps could have been taken that could have prevented the weapon from getting in. Now, what would have happened outside, down the street, around the corner, I can't say. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, on behalf of the LSP, do you think that I could get with you, in the mayor? Maybe we can come up with some kind of program, and also we need the media to get the word out. You cannot solve no violence with gun violence. So you can't solve the situation, so we need to talk about it, but we also need to get it out there so they can understand.
Well, and we got to educate our young people that they're seeing this on rap videos. They're seeing all these folks carrying guns, and getting guns on the streets are very easy. And again, I need to be clear. This is not the city of Columbus only. You have gun violence across this country, but my concern, because I'm responsible for the city of Columbus, we got young people, we have guns in the hands of young people that can barely write their name. I got a problem with that, okay? That means that guns are getting too accessible for young people. And they're using that to solve conflict instead of the old-fashioned way. When I came up, we fought. By lunchtime, we were friends again. Those days are gone, you know. I mean, it built character. It built friendship. You know, some people I had fights with in high school, we're friends to this day. But now, people don't understand, that is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. No matter what you have with this person, no matter what your beef is, you shoot them dead. We have two families that are affected. Your family is going to be affected, and the victim's family is going to be affected. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would just like to know, when the shooting was at your bar, when Andre was actually shooting at that time, why was he never charged?
Hey, she said about your bar.
I'm not aware of Mr. Andre getting a charge from your bar.
He did get one. I was wondering why he was never, because I saw on the video where he was actually behind the car shooting also.
I'm not aware of that. That may be the prior administration. So are you aware of that?
I'm not, but I tell you what we
This
can.
has happened when they shot up your bar like 60 rounds, and a guy named Larry was arrested too.
Okay. Well, see, information like that, we need you to come forward and talk to us. I'll put you in contact with Assistant Chief Ward. We're going to start looking at some of these cold cases and start looking at them and revisiting them and seeing what we can do to look into some of it. But we need people to come forward. We need people to come forward and say what's on their minds, what they think they saw, because no matter how small what you saw, you know, you might say, oh, you know what? I don't remember seeing anything, but I saw some pink tennis shoes. That might be small to you, but to us, it might be catastrophic because it could have put a shooter or a suspect at that scene because we know that person had on pink tennis shoes. So little things like that can mean a lot.
Let me ask you, on the topic of gun violence, there were 3 instances over the weekend of different shootings. How do you feel about those shootings? What can you tell us about 3 things happened over this holiday weekend?
I'm upset. I'm upset because of the fact that, again, we're dealing with gun violence in the city to handle, to try to solve problems. We had a family gathering at one of these events that broke into gun violence. But you know, people saying, well, it's the police job. Again, it is our job. But if you got a family event and the people you invite to your family event get into it, and then when the police get there, you don't know who was at your family event. I mean, help us, you know. And you know, everybody want to talk about Columbus. A lot of these crimes that are happening are people that know each other. They know each other, and they know who they are, but they won't tell us.
Is there an update on the shooting with the Maxwell guy that happened on Florence Street?
Yes, I'll give you an update once this is over. Yes, I'll be happy to.
You said a minute ago there were some steps that could have happened that may have prevented this or changed the outcome some at the nightclub as far as security. Could you maybe expand on that a little?
Well, my background, I am a security specialist. I've been through training for security analysis. So I just want to sit down with the business owners and have different venues. A lot of these clubs don't have the monies to purchase metal detectors. And some of them don't have the money per se to purchase wands. But they do have the money to hire security that can do a thorough pat down and that can take a flashlight and look into a female's purse to make sure that the gun is not being there. Now, I say they don't have the money, but if you look at some of these clubs, the number of patrons they have in there, they're doing pretty well. So, I mean, they just got to realize the severity of making sure that their patrons are safe. When you have a safe club, people are going to continue to come.
One thing with the clubs, it's sometimes not out in the club, but it's outside of the clubs in the parking lots. Are there some ways, preventative measures that can be taken for security when people come on the scene? Because as soon as they leave the bar, they may get shut down. They go to their cars and grab guns and shoot.
Well, that's why our Viper unit is out. And that night they were hitting clubs. As a matter of fact, Inferno was the next club that they were going to, but they were on the other side of town coming that way. And I needed to be known because I've read some comments on Facebook. We're not just going into the African American clubs, or we're going to everybody's club. If it's a Mexican club, we're going there. If it's a white club, we're going there. But we're going to everybody's club. So you might as well get ready. CPD, we're coming to a club near you very soon. Okay, we're going to make sure everybody is safe. You know, people get on here and start saying we're only doing this in certain communities. We have a whole city to protect, and my guys have been going to all these clubs throughout the city, walking through, looking at things, making their presence known.
And Chief, last question for me.
No, it ain't, but go ahead.
Maybe. Tell me, what is your message to these people because a lot of people that shoot up these clubs, they plan to do this. They go there ready to do it. What is your message to those that think they're going to continue doing this?
Well, you see the chief of police standing here. You see the district attorney standing here. You see the mayor, and you see a member of the council. That means that this city and this prosecutor is not going to stand for it. We're going to do everything in our power. The mayor and board is going to give us the resources we need to make sure that we put these people away. And the DA, he just told you, we have a working relationship. We're building on this relationship. We have what you call a friendship, where we're working on, because we want our community safe. Because the sooner, and I hate to take it to a different level, but when you talk about all the economic development that's coming to this city, those things have keyed into economic growth. And lowering crime rate, especially violent crime rate. No business wants to come to a city that has a high crime rate. That's why we're working together to make sure that we have a better quality of life, more quality of life. When you have businesses come, you have other people getting able to get jobs throughout the city. People who are looking for jobs now have jobs where they can turn back into our community.
Did they have wands and metal detectors at the club?
I can't answer that right now.
Chief, thanks for being transparent, but my next question, do you have an update on the shooting from last night?
Yes, I do. We made 3 arrests. I don't have them here, but I'll give them to you momentarily.
What message do you have for the citizens of Columbus to ensure them that they're safe here? The summer months are right around the corner. It's hot. People ain't got nothing to do, but people still want to have a good time, and they're looking to go out and spend money here in Columbus to have a good time. What message do you have for your citizens to let them know?
We did not come to play with the criminal element. I told you when I got here, when something happens, all hands on deck, and all hands are on deck. And you know, our suspect did, and I want to be clear, he turned himself in, okay? But he turned himself in because we made sure that everybody knew we were looking for him. we knew we were getting ready to call the U.S. Marshals. We were going to use every resource we had, local, state, and federal, to get him in custody. And he had a family member that made contact with him and put me in contact with him, and we were able to talk to him. But I want the citizens to know we're doing our part. You see something, call the police, call 911. We're coming, okay? And we're gonna do our job. Mr. Mayor?
I wasn't planning to say anything, but I will, because I do think that in many cases, Columbus has a perception issue when it comes to crime. If you look at the data, it is very similar to all the surrounding cities in the area, and in many cases better. I tell people all the time, I feel very safe in this community. I walk in neighborhoods all the time. I tell people that you have to be aware of your surroundings and keep an eye open. And there are areas where we're seeing it more than others, and we're going to try to do everything we can to help bring intervention and prevention into the city. One of the things that I talk about on a regular basis, and I know people get tired of hearing it, but it all comes back to education. We've got to do more to make sure that we're educating kids at a very young age so that they're not getting into situations where they can have access to guns. We have a gun issue in this country, obviously. You can go very deep into studying why all these things are happening, former policy issues that have plagued this country, that have caused some of the issues that we're having with crime and poverty, and we can never give up on trying to work on those things and work together. The city will always be proactive in trying to find, as I said before, intervention and prevention programs, but in the meantime, I'm very grateful to the chief and the DA for the work that they're doing. We have got to make sure when these things happen, unfortunately, you don't want it to come to this, and our hearts do go out to all the family members that are dealing with these situations. But when something like this happens, we've got to make sure that we're getting folks like this off the street and we're able to put them behind bars where they need to be. And then we're doing everything we can to try to make sure it doesn't happen again. It's unfortunate that these guns are falling into the hands of very young people. I know some of the other incidents that happened, we're dealing with teenagers. That is heartbreaking. And again, we've got to do everything we can to try to help these families avoid these situations. But I do think Columbus is a very safe city. Yes, ma'am.
I feel that my personal opinion, being a single parent, right? A lot of it started at home.
Yes.
And what incident that happened with Mr. Williams, his family no family should be tolerated by someone else's action because they don't play a part. But it starts at the home with these little kids, and the parents are afraid of them. And sometimes the parents go right along with them because they don't want to be bothered. But if you don't want to be bothered with them, you shouldn't have brought them here.
We'll be happy to have a conversation with you after we want to try to finish this press conference. But you know, we met with you this morning. We'll be happy to sit down and talk with you some more.
Okay, one more question. I know we still have the time for, excuse me, the enforcement, the curfew. Are we still gonna get the curfew back going and get it? And y'all start, implementing it really out. We got a curfew that cut off at 11. Or we're gonna make sure we don't see these children on the street, because that's the most of the time they comes out, after 10, after 11 o'clock, and then I'm like, what child is out? If I'm going to the store and I see somebody out the time down the street from me, and I know y'all know about the street at the corner, then we need to enforce that curfew.
Well, but I need you to understand something too. These shootings didn't happen after curfew. Okay, and the shooting that happened at the club, they weren't juvenile, they were grown folks. Right. So, I mean, unless we're gonna put a grown, and I'm not being funny, I'm just being honest with you.
Yeah, but I know some of the other crimes do have to do with teenagers. I think one last night, the child was 16, but we still need a curfew in place to get it enforced so that we can kind of, I know we're not going to never be able to eliminate it, right, but at least we can kind of help it.
And we are looking at all aspects. We met with, in our cabinet meeting this morning, we met with our city attorneys, and we have some other things that we're looking at that we're going to bring before the board to make some changes. And speaking of board, Councilman Hugh.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to piggyback basically on what the mayor was talking about. Me and him had a conversation, was it yesterday morning? We were talking about the same thing along with the chief. I just want you to know that the council, the mayor and council, stand behind the chief. Whatever resources he needs to protect our citizens, we're going to give him every resource. I don't want all the phone calls telling me about the chief. I stand with the chief. Let him do his job. All he's doing is trying to protect the citizen here in the city of Columbus. And I think he is doing an excellent job at that. So just so everybody can know, we stand
Any other questions?
behind the chief.
Any other questions?
I know everybody's not gonna be happy with some of the things we're doing, guys, but we have a job to do. And we're gonna treat folks with professionalism, and we're gonna do our job with professionalism until they don't allow us to. And, you know, if the criminal element, if we have to get dirty, we are prepared to get dirty. But we wanna treat folks with respect until they don't allow us to. And that's what we're here to do. With that being said, thank you guys for coming out.